Hello everyone, I'm here today to talk about Mercury Retrograde in Libra. So it's that time of year again. It's time for another Mercury Retrograde. This one will stay in one sign. Sometimes they will change signs, but no, this one will just be in Libra. It starts tomorrow, September 27th. And Mercury will be at 25 degrees. And so I've had an interesting week, needless to say. The energy has been weird. I don't know if you all are feeling it. But one issue I'm having is that the internet hasn't been working. So I'm filming this the day before Mercury retrograde starts, but I'm not sure when this will get up, as soon as possible. But it does start Monday, September 27th. Regardless, at 25 degrees Libra, and then it ends October 18th, and I think it goes down to 10 degrees Libra. So let's see here. We can talk about, to start off with, some of the themes of like the Libra energy, but also some general Mercury retrograde things to watch out for. So we'll start with the general, and I go over this every time. It's always good to have a reminder if you're new to this sort of thing to know what it's all about. So Mercury retrograde means it's like a backwards energy, because from Earth's perspective in an astrology chart, it's like Mercury's moving backwards. But what's really happening is that Mercury is really close to us during a retrograde, so we lose perspective and we think it's moving backwards. And also that means it heightens Mercury things. So Mercury is like the mind, also communication. So there's just a lot going on, but we don't have the right perspective. And there is this like backwards reflecting motion from our perspective, since we are on Earth, and that's how the astrology chart is working. So this is a time to kind of realize, in terms of thoughts and stuff coming at us, we don't have the right perspective. So it's a good idea to take a step back. It's a great time to reflect, to chill out a bit, especially when it comes to mental stuff. So, take what comes in and take what information comes in and just observe it. It might be important later on, but this isn't a time to like go crazy overthinking. And it's really definitely not a time to make decisions, most of all. So this is a great time of year to slow down. We constantly as a society always like want to take action, go, and if you look at the energy, it's not always like that. Being and taking things slower, they're just as valuable. So I know Mercury retrograde can annoy us with this slowing down energy, because we live in that kind of society with those kind of pressures. But this is a time where it can be great to value, being, chilling out, self-care, not needing to make a decision, not needing to take so much action. Start to value, the slower, simpler things in life. So you can see it like that and kind of take it as an opportunity where you're like given permission to focus more on that. And my biggest warning to people, I would say, during Mercury retrograde is simply that decision making. I'm an astrologer. I know what all the astrology means. I put it together. I give it to you guys. And sometimes that's all it is. Sometimes an aspect is so rare, I know what it means, but I haven't experienced it so many times. I can tell you not only from like knowledge, but experience, what that means. But with Mercury retrograde, like I have seen it so many times, so it's not like I just know what it's about. I've had so much experience with it, and not just with myself, but those close to me, clients, you name it. And what I've come away with, no matter what, it's like, don't make a decision. And I've noticed and that means no endings or beginnings. And sometimes I'll try to like tell people, well, maybe you could. I'll try to find ways for it to work, because sometimes people are very determined to end or begin something during this time. But every which way it works out, it seems like it is regrettable. I'm sorry, there is a plane going by. The noise. We'll wait for it. Maybe I'll cut this out. I'm not sure. So any ending or beginning, like, it seems like any which way you slice it, it just doesn't go well. The problem is because we're not thinking clearly during Mercury retrograde, people tend to regret those decisions, or they go back on it, or it doesn't work out. And sometimes because of the no perspective and the overthinking, sometimes people really do try to make changes during Mercury retrograde, but it's just, yeah, my biggest advice is not to do that, to wait. And all of those decisions, they might be the right ones, but it definitely is not the right time. So, when I talk about endings or beginnings and the things I've seen that you should not do, that don't go well, this can be with relationships. Mercury is in Libra, so it can be a big relationship energy this time. And yeah, so if you meet someone during this time, I've never seen those work out. Just saying, so do know that. Sometimes they can show you something, but it tends to be later on you're oh, never mind, I don't like you, or whatever. If you end a relationship, even if you do need to end it, because I've seen this a lot. People always try to break up during Mercury retrograde for some reason. That's the most common. I'd say that's the most common thing that people do. Endings or beginning wise is a mistake, but I have seen them all. So ending a relationship, I can guarantee you if you want to end it, I'm sure you need to, but the timing's not right. And so I've seen people get back together so many times because they broke up during Mercury retrograde. So perhaps that causes more harm than good, because maybe, in a month you really are going to break up, but you could save yourself this breaking up, getting back together, regrets, if you choose a better timing. So if you can, I would put that off. See, and you'll see why you need to put it off probably after Mercury retrograde, and see why now wasn't the best timing and later on will be a better timing. And same with moving. If you move, something about the place might not work out. You might regret it. All of that. New jobs. It might not last, if you start a new job. If you end a job, again, similar to the relationship, perhaps you'll question it, and perhaps you were meant to leave it. But in a month, you would leave it, for certain, without regrets, without unfinished business, stuff like that. So, yeah. Anything else you can think of, those are some big areas where people end and begin things. That's not a good idea. So, the only time I would say not to listen to that is if you're in any type of, danger, or something's really wrong. It's well, you can figure out why, Mercury retrograde wasn't the right time later, but sometimes in life we can't put things off. So unless it's you can't, or something bad will happen, I really would take a step back and think about it and put it off. That doesn't mean, some people think during Mercury retrograde, oh, you can't do anything. That's not true. What are you doing right now? Continue that, yeah, it is a time of slowing down, and I do think that's of value. And I think some people don't like Mercury retrograde because they don't see that as a valuable time, but it is really valuable to slow down. And I wish as a society, we did value that more, but Mercury retrograde does go bad, for one reason, because of that. And also because we rely so much on technology, which brings me to another point. Technology can go on the fritz, appliances, stuff like that. Just because Mercury is close to the Earth, and affects those things, so it does send things on the fritz. So just, you can, waylay stuff sometimes if you're just really cautious with technology. Double check things when you can. Sometimes if you've been putting off fixing something, it will break because you need to fix it. Sometimes you can't help it, so you just have to be patient. But I do think that's why in today's day and age, we have a difficult time. We want to push, we want to go, we want to make decisions. We value that so highly, and then we rely on everything for technology. So of course it's frustrating, I always joke that I bet Mercury retrograde wasn't that bad, like back in the day, because, yeah, like, they didn't have technology. It wasn't like, oh, my text didn't go through, or my computer broke down. So maybe in the early days of early technology, it started to get frustrating. But I'm thinking back to a time with no technology. I bet it was a lot more chill, you know, and they were more patient. It was like, I didn't receive their letter, but it takes forever anyways, you know. So, yeah, so definitely technology. So just be more cautious, you know, be more slow with stuff. Be slow with communicating as well. There can be a lot of miscommunication. Again, I feel like that happens a lot because of the technological ways we use to communicate. So double check your text. If someone doesn't get it and you're sure they're not like ignoring you or you're not being annoying, you can always, you know, reach out if it was important, you know, be like, did you get that? Because they might not have during the retrograde, so that's quite plausible. Yeah, so emails, text, double check, you know, just, I think the more cautious you are about little things and slow down, the easier it can go for sure. Yeah, so I think that's all my like about Mercury retrograde in general. And what else? So Mercury retrograde in Libra, let's talk about that. So Libra is the sign of relationships. So this one is going to be really big on relationships, communicating in relationships. It might bring up some poor communication habits. It might make you really question one-on-one relationships. But again, question them right now. But don't like start or end things, you know. That definitely might be coming later because it's in Libra. I do want to say Mercury retrogrades tend to precede big choices. That really is what they're here for. So they're not here to just like make everything slow and stupid for a while. Like they're here to slow us down, make us like take a step back without making a decision. And then they usually end up bringing us information that doesn't make sense, usually until it's over, and then we can make a decision. So I see people make a lot of big decisions since Mercury is mental, like that, making a mental choice, communicating something after the retrograde. So since it's in Libra, a lot of people might be making relationship decisions, but right now it's about taking the information. You can have conversations, you know, try to figure out, you know, is communicating in your relationships going well? Is it not? Are there people you don't want in your life anymore? What's going on with that? Also, Libra is about harmony and compromise and peace and justice. So if anything's out of balance, that's really important to deal with right now as well, and to take stock. What's out of balance? And that could be relationships or in your life. You know, is your life out of balance? Is it not harmonious? Is it not peaceful? Yeah, and in relationships, are you compromising? Are other people compromising? And what is fair? What is just? And if, you know, things aren't fair, you know, it's time for to come into balance, to work that out, for like justice to be served, I guess. That's definitely a Libra energy. So that's what we're working on at this time. The relationships we want and don't want, how to communicate better in relationships, finding more harmony and peace, balance, justice, fairness. That's what we're rethinking right now, you know. And these are areas we might make decisions later. And I will say Libra is the most indecisive energy because it rolls the scale. So it's like two things. It's like, you know, what decision do I make? I don't know. So I will say I almost feel like the energy right now is super indecisive. Like not only just because Mercury's retrograde and we don't have the good perspective, but it's like two options and we just don't know what to do. And I think we will know what to do later, but don't like wear yourself out with trying to weigh the options, because I think later on we will be able to find the best option. But you might feel really indecisive right now. Yeah, and so that's kind of general Mercury retrograde energy and the Mercury retrograde in Libra. And now I want to go more in depth than I tend to do during these talks and go through the aspects Mercury retrograde will make and give you some dates. So I never write anything down, but I wrote down the dates and what the aspect will be, and then I'll just share with you what it means. So I have notes for once. I do like to, astrology is, it's both like very intuitive and logical. Like you have to know what certain things mean. Like there's a lot of learning and knowledge that you get from astrology, but I also feel like when you're putting it together, there is kind of an intuitive element. And so I feel like if I look too much beforehand, I don't know, it ruins the intuitive element. So I like to be in the moment with my clients and talking about energy and kind of like, you know, put it together, give it to you, because definitely there's kind of like downloads sometimes of this work. So, but these are just dates. So this time I had to do that. I couldn't remember all the dates. Okay, so the first aspect Mercury retrograde makes will be on September 30th, and it will be square Pluto, which did happen this past week, kind of around the full moon, a little bit afterwards. So that energy is gonna come back around, and that is a harder one. That is where like imbalances may come up, you know, power struggles, where justice really, you know, isn't reigning, where justice needs to be served, where things aren't fair, all of this. So September 30th, we're revisiting an energy of like power struggles, conversations not being fair, interactions not being fair, or maybe just a strong state of imbalance in our life, or even that feeling of injustice. So we will be revisiting that. And because it is the second time, perhaps it won't be so harsh as it was this past week, but it needs to be relooked at and dealt with. And then on October 3rd, we are having our next aspect, which is Mercury trine Jupiter in Aquarius. And now we had that one exactly on the full moon in Pisces. If you watched my video, I talked about it. And this is a good one because this is about kind of positive thinking, positive working together. Aquarius is, you know, equality and the greater good of like the group, you know, wants everybody to be equal and accepted. And Libra wants balance between people and harmony. So that's really lovely. This can be where we look back and kind of try to find that if we don't have that going on. And if we need to get in a more positive mental state and something we need to relook at is that our mind is not balanced or in a positive place, we can have a moment to look back at that and decide to look at things more positively, more optimistically, and also just to kind of restore balance with people and decide what is the greater good. So that's good. We're having that again. And then on October 9th, we're having a big old conjunction going on between Mercury, Mars, and the Sun. So the Libra energy will be off the charts. Definitely big themes of the balance and harmony and relationships and compromise. And so with these three energies, what are they about? You know, we got Mercury, which is how we communicate in that kind of balanced, compromising way. And also how we think. Mars is about taking action in that sort of way. And the Sun, that's just kind of what we are, being that, you know, so it would be like having great relationships, you know, being harmonious and balanced, being fair. So really all this comes together, and it's a great time to, in all ways, like be harmonious and fair, speak and talk that way, take action that way. You know, it can be a really great rebalancing energy and very much positively relationship focused as well. Perhaps taking some actions, you know, some conversations, changing just your vibe to be more in that energy. Let's see what else. We could have a lot of indecision though around that point, and again, that's okay. It is the retrograde, so you don't want to decide. But because we might be like our minds aren't made up, our actions, we're not quite sure what action to take. Maybe we're not even sure like what side we're on or what we're feeling. So if that's the case and all the Libra energy just becomes indecisive, that's okay. but it is a great opportunity to work things out for the best in relationships and just rebalancing. Okay, and then October 15th, we have a touchy one, opposing Chiron in Aries. So that day, wounds might come up, especially wounds about independence versus relationships. So if you feel like you're not heard in a relationship, or you feel like who you are, your identity is being challenged or not accepted, if you feel like perhaps you're in a situation and there's not like enough independence between the two people and there's too much like codependence, these are all things that may come up and be kind of triggered. It might be a triggering moment to heal these wounds about self versus others. How do you as an individual fit into interactions? But it also could bring up the opposite side. Like, I'm more talking about wounded Aries, where your identity is not accepted, you're not independent enough, you can't stand up for yourself, something like that. But it also could be like one person's not being harmonious and fair in an interaction because they're being too much in their ego. So that's another possibility. So it's a day for revisiting wounds, issues, triggers, might be a touchy one. And then the retrograde ends October 18th, again at 10 degrees Libra. And then what I did want to talk about, other than that, more information for you all, is sort of Mercury retrograde as it catches back up, or not retrograde anymore, when it goes direct, it catching back up, because then there's still a shadow period, when it's revisiting those steps. So I think it's important to know as it moves forward, what days is it revisiting an aspect that was had during the retrograde, and then when are we out of the shadow period. So while Mercury goes direct October 18th, it doesn't actually move at all until the 21st. So you should know that. Like, it's technically not retrograde anymore, but it's almost kind of stationary. So if you're expecting things to be like, woo, quick again, right away, like, it doesn't even start moving till the 21st. So that's important to note. And then, let's see. And then there will be two big aspects it revisits for a final time. So it doesn't revisit all of them. So some of those aspects I talked about, it's just the retrogrades, the revisit, and we probably complete it during the retrograde, and that's it. Two aspects, though, will need to be completed for the third and final time after the retrograde. So that is the Mercury trine Jupiter, first of all, on October 31st, on Halloween. That's nice, that's positive. So for the third and final time, we will find out how to think more positively and figure out how to make things fair and equal for everyone, and just really like in a good space. So that's lovely. But apparently we needed to deal with that 3 times, before the retrograde and the full moon, during the retrograde, and after. Like, that needs some serious work, but that'll be really lovely, because once that point hits, I think it does put us in a more positive spot, and it does help us figure out a solution. So at that point we might have some like great harmonious solutions or conversations. And then on November 1st, Mercury squares Pluto for the last time. So why that is harsh, because it's the 3rd time, I wonder if it'll be the least harsh then, because that will be the final solution as well for like the power struggles, the injustice, the things not being fair and harmonious and all of that. So at that point, we will be able to find a solution for that as well and get things back into balance. And so by the time those dates hit, we complete some issues, we figure some stuff out. And then on November 3rd, Mercury exits its shadow period and is fully moving forward. And I believe it only takes like 5 days after that or something for it to enter Scorpio, which is good, because in Libra it is indecisive. So I'd say definitely as soon as it starts moving, like October 21st, we start to get clarity, we start to move things forward, we start to find solutions, and then with these 2 dates, October 31st and November 1st, we really figure stuff out, really complete some stuff. So as it moves along, we do pick up the pace, we do get clarity, we get resolution. And then once it exits shadow period, then we can fully make those decisions. We got all the clarity, we got the resolution. So November 3rd onwards, I'd say totally great to make a decision, totally great to move forward. You can make it a little bit before then, but if you're not ready to till November 3rd, that's okay. And then, like I said, like 5 days after that, around there, Mercury enters Scorpio, and that will be more decisive because the Libra is in general like weighing options up, but Scorpio knows what it desires. It zooms in on something and it's like, it's that. So I'd say beginning in November, you should be ready to make decisions, to move forward, have more clarity. So I thought I'd give you that time frame. So you know that just because Mercury's direct, it does mean things are moving forward, but it takes a while, you know, to get clear. So you have a good timeline as to what's going on during the retrograde, when it moves forward, and when it like super moves forward. So hopefully having that information is helpful to you. And if you know you want to write these dates down, hopefully you did that. That might be good for you to remember. And always remember too, in aspects, sometimes I'm giving you exact dates, but sometimes there's like a little lead up or a little like aftermath. So that's the exact date, but you can consider, you know, the surrounding days, you know, like the day before might be that kind of energy in the build up, or the day after. So the come down. So I thought I'd mention that. So yeah, I hope this Mercury retrograde goes smoothly for you all. And just remember, it can be a frustrating time, but this is important. For whatever reason, we need to take a step back, and we're probably about to make some big decisions. And I'm sure you all want to make the right decisions for yourself. So don't rush it by making a decision at the wrong time, when you're probably not ready for it, when you might regret it, when you might make the wrong choice. Just, you know, tune in, ask Mercury retrograde to give you the information you need, and then I'm sure you will. You know, you will have weighed out the options. You will have found more harmony and peace, and know relationship wise, you know, what you want or not because of the Libra. And yeah, and I'm sure you'll be able to make a good, confident decision about whatever you might need to make a decision about later on. So hang in there. I will be offering a Mercury retrograde special sometime this week, but I'll let you know when I do that. I need my internet to start working again, and then I'll post this, and then I'll post the moon maps if you didn't do that last month. It was a new thing I started last month where I write out a report going through each day of the month ahead, talking about where the moon is, which I don't talk about very often because it changes a lot, but it changes the mood really and what you should focus on each day. So I started that last month. It did seem popular, and you know, if you want that for the next month, I will be posting after this video, when my internet's working, about that. So if you're interested in that, check out my page, because that might be really helpful. And then once I do those, I want to do those first, and then I'll be posting, so just look out for it. I'll be posting a Mercury retrograde special, and that one will be little and pretty cheap, because I'm just literally going to look out for everyone. So kind of like, I don't know, a flash special, is that what it is? Like a micro special, or we're just looking at Mercury. So but if you would like to know where it's hitting you, you know, I always think that's helpful, and I know people like that, so I'll be posting that too. So look out for all this stuff, and I wish you a good retrograde. And if you ever need any other advice, you know, I don't know if I say it often enough, but I'm always doing personal readings, so just reach out to me, you know, if you want to look at the transits, if something's going on right now and you have some questions, you know, or if you never got your birth chart done and you would like to know about your personality, if you have a birthday soon, I can look at your year ahead. If you got relationship problems and want to look at what's going on, or your compatibility or something, I'm here. I'm always here for stuff like that. So I feel like I don't advertise that enough. I'm kind of quiet about it, but I should. So here I am saying, if you need me, I'm here. So yeah, have a wonderful Mercury retrograde, everyone. Bye.